Yo, what's up, nerds? It's Havoc. Guess what? We've got another battle group how-to video for you guys today,
We have M29 Weasels
featuring my boy Momo. I'm just gonna go through the players here. momo4sho. He's my usual 2v2 partner. If you check out my stream, he's often there. We play a ton of 2v2s together. Both part of Remember the Name, the old-fashioned COH3 clan. We're playing against Dunkirk and Wilson. They're like pretty high elo. I think they're both over or under, I should say, rank 100. And we're playing on Santuario, which is one of the newer 2v2 maps. And the battle group we are showcasing today is Spec Ops. Oh, I am tickled about this one because I think that with the changes that came in the 2.0 patch, this is probably one of the top USF battle groups at the moment, and it's big time slept on from what I can tell. So with that, I'm going to talk about micro, macro decisions, especially things that are specific to this map. We're going to break it down, all of it in this game, talk about the how-to, talk about different forks in the decision tree that you're going to come to throughout your games. And the ones that I chose and the alternatives that you can choose and when and why you might choose those. Anyway, with that, we're going to get into it. So, on this map specifically, I'm starting with a engineer and weasel opener. The reason I'm going for an engineer rather than a second scout, which I would most likely do if this was a more open map like Campbell's Convoy, for example, and it's probably better for like your 4v4 maps, is I'm going for the engineer because I want early access to mines. I'm expecting to play against the DAC player, by the way, guys. You can always look at your opponent's side and see where the spawns are to determine what player you're going to be matched up against. In this case, the back base always looks like this. The Wehrmacht base always looks like this. And the UK and USF bases also have distinct looks. So check those out in the Fog of War. Anyway, sorry, we're getting a little sidetracked here. So he's pushing it down south here with the 250 Pioneer combo. I'm just buying time with my engineer, waiting for my rifleman to pull up here and force him away. Part of the benefit of the engineer in the early game here is it's a little bit beefier than a scout, and you can see with the automatic grease guns, I'm actually able to deal some decent damage here to the 250. And so we're able to force him off as a result. And then later, I'll be able to plant a nice early mine to try to bait in the 250 and take it out early as possible. If you can manage to take out the first 250 that the DAC fields very early, then you're going to be a good place. We did miss a little bit of an engagement over here where I took control of this building with my scout, dealt some damage to his machine gun, very deliberately targeting the machine gun when I was in the building here. But eventually got forced away because my health was very low. You notice on the north side of the map, I spent my time capturing with the weasel to allow Momo to use his dingo for combat in the middle. This has allowed us to capture all the territory. I'm getting the pintle mounted 30 cal upgrade. By the way, if you're going for this battle group, you have to go for the weasel. I'll talk about the weasel a little bit more in a second when we get a moment. Momo doing a great job forcing engagements in the middle with his sections and flamer sapper here. I am just kind of covering the outside here, continuing to cover the outside with the weasel. And I'm going to bring it now towards the center. Looks like Dunkirk here overextending, or sorry, Wilson overextending his 250 a bit, getting caught out by the dingo. You guys can see, I talked about this in my UK battle group video. This is why the dingo is so important in any 2v2 games that you're playing against DAC. This is the only thing that can reliably chew through the dingo in the super early game. And so it's important to have. You can see here, just pulling my rifleman away from the assault grenadiers, soft retreating into the building. I notice his flamethrower pioneer is out of position. He hasn't retreated it yet, so I'm focusing on that, closing the gap. You managed to pick up the kill on that flamer, which is huge for me. Now I'm turning my attention to the machine gun, which I've also flanked. Get a great hit in from the 25 pounder. And we're able to snake up that MG42, but the likelihood that we're going to get away from these assault grenadiers is pretty low. Meanwhile, we're coming in big flank here with the engineer and the rifleman. What I'm trying to do is get on the retreat path of this grenadier, so I can steal it back. Now, unfortunately, he did manage to retreat here and get away really quickly. So I wasn't able to close the gap in time to finish off the machine gun. He's also got reinforcements coming in here. You can see Weasel here in the center, just playing aggressive, playing at distance with the top gun, the 30 caliber on the Weasel. I just want to pause here and talk really briefly about the Weasel specifically. So, the Weasel in the early game, generally speaking, you don't use this exactly like a Jeep. The Weasel has a much better long-range damage curve than the Jeep does, which means it's much better. The Jeep damage curve kind of looks like this. It's very steep. You're only dealing a lot of damage when you're like right up in the face of your opponent. The Weasel has a much softer curve on it. It's much more like this, which means it does more damage at long range, which is great because it provides a great base of fire in the early game to deal chip damage and allow your rifleman to close the gap without putting it in danger like you might with the Jeep. It's also slower. It has worse acceleration and speed compared to the Jeep. It's got a little bit more health. It also has out of combat self-repair that you don't have to, it doesn't have any kind of cooldown. You don't have to trigger to activate. And as for the veterancy choices, you have a choice between medical station and signal layer. Signal layer is the other option. I did not choose it in this game. Signal layer is probably better if you have a bad early game and get forced off the map. But honestly, I really prefer the utility of medical station, especially in team games. Having early game healing toward the front lines is super invaluable because it gives your troops extra staying power, and not having to pull them back to base as early as you might. So I'm generally leaning towards the medical station for the most part. In this game, I don't know, I can't remember actually if I used either deploy heavy machine gun or M1 mortar. In my case, I did the double rifle opener. That is kind of my go-to. You do, of course, have the option of, on more open maps especially, or if you prefer it, you can go for the double scout Weasel into weapon support center opener and go for an early 230 cals into bazooka. That is an excellent choice and really sets you up to get to the SSFs later on, which is like one of my favorite units in the game. And I think a special point of this battle group, the SSF Commando Squad, both compositions are good. I personally prefer Rifleman because I like to be aggressive. I like to get up in my opponent's face. I like to use grenades and snares that I have access to on the Rifleman. And I also have access, of course, to the mortar. And the nice thing is, whether you go weapon support center first or barracks, you can drop whatever you're missing. So if you go weapon support center first and you need a mortar, you can drop one from your Weasel. If you go barracks first and you go for Rifleman and you need a 30 cal before you go weapon support center eventually, which I do in this game, we'll talk about when we get there, you can go for the 30 cal drop, which is really nice as well. So, like I mentioned, keeping this thing towards the front line, keeping it alive, engaging units more from long range than you would with the Jeep. The Jeep you can be much more aggressive with because it's more mobile. This thing, it's got a little bit more armor and a little bit more health than the Jeep. So it's a bit more survivable against small arms and things of the like, super early light vehicles. It trades well with the 250 as well. Not quite as good as the Dingo, but still a very solid choice to damage the 250 from long range. And as I mentioned, it's a great base of fire unit that you can kind of engage with first and kind of just chip away at your opponent from long range and accumulate veterancy slowly through capture. It's got some nice veterancy bonuses here as well. You can see extra detection range, vision range, and then capture speed at Vet 2 is really nice as well for vacuuming up points as you're pushing forward with your scouts, your riflemen, and your captain. Now, this game, I went for Infantry Support Center. I think in bigger team games, Mechanized Support Center might be a better choice. I really need access to the captain in this game. I talked about the strength of the captain in some of my other USF videos, but unlock the mark vehicle ability on the captain is just so incredibly strong right now with the dominance of the Axis heavies in this most recent patch. Unlock this mark vehicle ability makes them way more killable, way more susceptible, especially as the game progresses. And so getting the captain just for that, as well as flanking maneuver and some early game firepower with his 1919 machine gun, is really nice. Mechanized Support Center synergizes with this battle group as well excellently. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. I'm going to let the game play out a little bit more. We'll come back and kind of revisit other potential decisions that I could have made after we get through the meat of some of the core decisions this game. So yeah, here we'll kind of continue on from here. Now, I am going to be thinking about a couple things here. Generally speaking, especially when you're playing 2v2s, the US player is always the one that's going to want to go for medical station because you get access to the casualty retrieval mechanic. And obviously, you want to position it, if possible, to benefit both you and your teammate from a medical standpoint. Here we go, trying to pick up the assault grenadier here with the rifleman, taking quite a bit of damage. But you see, continuing to engage here with the Weasel, continuously dealing damage. Momo's doing a good job with his Dingo as well. Guys, the allied ultralights, do not sleep on them. The Jeep, the Dingo, super important to creating space in the early game and winning those infantry engagements. Got a nice nade on his 2-2-1 that's going to force him to retreat for a little bit. Now, next thing I'm thinking about is going to be Weapon Support Center, most likely into a M3 half-track. There's a couple reasons that we go at Weapon Support Center. Obviously, access to machine guns on this map is really nice, as well as the mortar. You can see I'm constructing it here. The mortar is going to serve us really well against the machine guns and potential other team weapons from the Wehrmacht player, as well as the DAC player, but just less likely with the DAC player. See Momo putting some good cheeky mines down. Just a quick note about the captain, guys. The captain, because it's such a fragile unit, it's something that you want to be continuously positioning around your troops, not engaging directly on the front line because of the benefits of the shared experience that the captain gets. Looks like I'm actually just getting in. And for that reason, it's a great unit to put into an anchor point, like a building like this. Just here, I'm just going to step out of the building, dodge those grenades, and get back in. Rifleman engaging here at range. Using the line of sight of the building to block the gap here between the 2-2-1 and my Weasel. Focusing the Weasel on the exposed target here on the outside. As the assault grants close the gap, I'm just going to get out and retreat. Don't want to lose that. Flak Veerling is out for the DAC player. So now I really need to make sure that I'm prioritizing getting the GMC here. Or my M3 half-track, which I will eventually convert to a GMC. Momo's got really good timing here on his Humber. Oh, get caught out here by the flak. Just want to back that away. M3 in production. And this is a great early game composition that I've got so far. Mortars out on the field as well. They're playing quite tight, quite close together. So this is going to be useful on especially this urban map. And like I said, dealing with the team weapons that we have to deal with. Momo's got a nice early AT gun to help protect us from the Flak Veerling and the 2-2-1. And I'm going to be leaning towards SSF Commandos next, after my M3 comes out. And these guys, I love these guys. I'll talk about them when we get them on the field. Definitely one of the highlights of the battle group at the moment. So another decision I want to call out here, guys. Raiding flares. This is an excellent, it's a relatively cheap recon ability that gives you extra accuracy against units that are under its vision, the vision that it provides. It provides extra accuracy against. This includes infantry, and I believe it includes vehicles as well. It doesn't actually say here, but I believe it includes vehicles as well. Improves the accuracy of friendly infantry. There we go. So infantry are much more likely to hit targets that are underneath the flares. for the purpose of spotting infantry units, there's so many cloak units in the game that Axis is using right now. You can see these tank busters will have a cloak eventually. Jaeger Shreks, Pax can have cloak. The Terror Battlegroup machine guns have cloak. There's so much. Flares is probably, I think it is, the cheapest recon ability in the game. And it can't be shot down by planes, which is awesome. And like I mentioned, it also gives extra accuracy again for your infantry that are attacking the area. But this is like the perfect recon ability, and you get access to it super early on. So that's part of what makes this battle group a really good choice when you're playing against a lot, like either DAC Espionage or Terror Battle Group with the machine guns. The raiding flares are really helping and are quite slept on. The smoke is okay too. And it is free, which is really nice, but I just feel like the utility of the flares, especially in light of the current Axis meta, is probably the better choice. So you can see here, rather than building a machine gun, I'm actually going to save a little bit more manpower by just dropping a machine gun from my Weasel, saving my manpower to build my SSF Commando squad. This is a little trick where if you are floating enough munitions and you still want to keep building on your composition, then dropping a weapon rather than building it from the base structure can save you a little bit of manpower to help you get that tempo advantage of just building more units than your opponent. And that's really one of the main benefits here of the Weasel, like we talked about. So I'm picking it up on the Scout because the Scout is actually the cheapest squad that I have to reinforce. So I'm going to pay the least for the reinforcements on the Scout squad. The machine gun will also get some reinforcements here. And we're going to move back towards the front line. GMC, I'm going to get super aggressive with and make sure, keep his, what is this thing? Keep that flak Virling in check. Pushing in here with my rifleman and my captain. Making use of the green cover. There we go. See, I'm not too afraid of him. Like, he's dealing good damage here, but I'm going to take control of this building really quick and try to force away the Panzerjäger. If I force away the Panzerjäger, that's going to create an opening for me to close with my GMC. This guy obviously knows that, so he's soft retreating his Panzerjägers back. There could be like a medical truck back here or God knows what, so we'll have to see. Rifleman pushing in, creating space for my GMC. It's actually a bit of a misstep on my part. Had to retreat those 2 units. I actually almost got caught out here with the Weasel, which is why those guys kind of got mismicroed and pushed forward too far. See here, Gren's coming in. Momo coming to help me out with his Humber. Captain posture to protect this section, but gets caught out by the flak Virling on the wrong side of the cover. Tried to use the mortar and the GMC barrage, but I actually hit the building, so I canceled that quickly. And now we've got our first SSF on the field, as well as the machine gun. Machine gun's really going to help me lock down this center area, especially against the double assault Gren and the Grenadier squad that I'm going to have to deal with from the Axis players. Oh, almost managed to pick up the Gren squad, but he does manage to get away. So we're going for the SSF next. You have a couple decisions that you can make at this point. If you are playing Infantry Support Center, it's not a bad idea to get an early logistics training, because this is going to allow you to start to generate those manpower returns from cheaper reinforcements early on. It's also going to get you a little bit extra XP and help you scale your infantry squads a little bit faster with the casualty retrieval mechanic. So I'll just here quickly look at the description. So you can see here, reduces the cost of reinforcement by 25%. And anytime the triage station replaces a squad member, it gives the squad an extra 50 experience, which is pretty nice. So like I mentioned, the earlier you get this, if you're going to go for logistics, it is going to set back your early vehicles, but it may be worth it if you're planning to invest into a heavy infantry composition with, say, for example, 2 riflemen. And if I were to go 2 SSF, for example, then I would probably consider going logistics so I'm not bleeding myself too hard. I would just have to be really careful of what kind of vehicles my opponent is going to get out. And we'll talk about some of the potential decisions once we run into some of the heavier vehicles coming from Axis. For the moment, we've just got the flak Virling to deal with, and the 221 is somewhere on the field. Here's a pack. Hitting that with the mortar when we get the opportunity. Being conservative here with the Weasel, I don't want to overextend this. Just trying to keep it in a position where it can support my troops with heals when necessary. I mean, I've got a lot of the value of this thing already because I used it for the early game capturing the territory, and then also the medical station in the early game, and then the weapon drop. GMC picks up the kill in the 250 because he overextended. Does manage to throw a smoke at my MG. I'm just going to use it to get out of the building. Now that he's smoked it, wait for the grenades to go off, and then I think I go back in. Yep. As you play a lot of games, you start to notice like what the grenade ranges are for the various units. Oh, looks like he's using breach now. So again, we're just going to get out. All my infantry is coming back from base here. Does force the retreat, but I'm using the captain sprint, getting my SSFs out in front because they actually have the most firepower. Unfortunately, don't have windows on this side of the building, so I wasn't able to finish them off. Oh, almost gets hit by Momo's bishop. First Werble on the field for Dunkirk. Oh, that Canadian's probably gonna die. Rifleman pushing in, trying to grab control of the middle here. You can see I'm floating a fair bit of resources. I'm going to consider a couple different options pretty soon. There we go. Ambush bonus on my SSFs to catch out this AT gun. Creating space. I'm expecting his flak Veerling to show up. I switched to the bazookas and changed targets to the flak Veerling. I'm pulling up the GMC to try to get the killing blow here. Now this is a little trick. So you'll notice that I'm driving in here deliberately with hold fire enabled. The reason why I'm doing this is because sometimes when you're chasing an opponent's vehicle like this and you have your toggle vehicle focus on, this thing will fire at the first available vehicle target. So if he pulls up here with anything, a Kradschützen, the 251 that he's got, it's actually over here, but I don't know that. If he drives in here and intercepts the GMC, I'm going to fire the shot at the wrong target. So what I want to do is I put hold fire on so that it's only going to listen to deliberate attack orders from me. The GMC is a little bit faster here than the flak Veerling, so I'm trying to close the gap and just get a right click off so I can get the final killing blow on him. You'll notice here, I actually got caught out by the pack. I hesitate and back away. And it was probably the right decision because you can see here the Grenadiers were sprinting in. If that pack shot had managed to hit and the Grenadiers got the Faust off, this thing would have been dead. Changing targets here to the 221 on the other squad. I actually get caught up by the other sprinting Grenadier, unfortunately, and we end up losing the GMC, which is rough. Good defensive mines here planted by Momo. You can see now I've gone for logistics, but I've gone for it quite late. I probably should have gone for it earlier. I was debating going for tier 4 early, which could have been a good choice here. Honestly, probably was the right choice considering what the DAC player is going for. But not the worst thing in the world. Nice shared XP here from the Weasel. Now, if my opponents were capturing this side of the territory, this side of the map, I should say, once I clear it out with my infantry units, I'm just going to focus my Weasel on going back up here to capture all the points because it's got that extra capture speed, and that's going to allow me to continuously push my infantry. You know, if I've gone through and captured all these, or I guess pushed my opponents off of these different points, and now I'm going to come up here, sweep the capture points with the Weasel, and force the infantry to come down and stay back in the fight. And this is the value, guys, of having recon units, so like scouts, and access to the Jeep and the Weasel in the early game and the mid game. It allows you to focus on keeping your riflemen, keeping your other line units in combat, gaining where they gain more veterancy. And you're still retaining great map control because you're able to just kind of vacuum up the map in the wake of the pushing that you're doing with your riflemen and your other line units. See, Captain here has gone for the marked vehicle, just pushing him down south to stop the VP bleed that we're enduring right now. Bringing my forces back up in the middle. By the way, guys, you'll see this a lot more in team games. Like, using your forces together is really, really important, and not letting your opponent engage your units one at a time. So what that often means is, like, when you pull back to base, you're waiting for some other troops to come back so you can go back and retake the territory together as a group. Because if I'm sending every unit back out as it's coming back from a retreat, I'm going to be continuously getting outnumbered and slowly push back from the map. So what I really want to try to do is keep a solid defensive line to give myself the space to continuously feed troops back into the front. But when I get pushed off like this completely, I just want to come back with a big enough force that I can retake the ground that I lost. So I want to call this out really quickly. One of the great benefits of the Weasel and the Jeep drops as well is that you can drop weapons for your teammate. So I actually called out for Momo, hey man, I noticed that this player has a Flak 30, this Flak 30 anti-aircraft gun. This thing is brutal. It's really solid against light vehicles, really good against infantry, especially when they're clumped. And so I said to Momo, listen, I know your mortar's not that good. Skip the mortar. I'll drop a mortar for you, and you can use my mortar to deal with this Flak 30. And then once he gets Vet 1, he'll also have access to the Airburst Barrage, which is just the perfect counter for this Flak 30 as well. So I just wanted to call that out. Being mindful of like what your teammates are dealing with and communicating with them, and then using the benefits of something like the weapon drop, again, here is going to pay dividends over the course of the game. We actually catch out the tank busters here that he had in Cloak. He uses a barrage from the 254 on my machine gun that I didn't notice until a little bit too late. Captain here engaging the Assault Grenadier. Rifleman being pushed back by the Flak Fearling. We can see the DAC player has a Stug on the field. This is a bit of a problem for me right now because I just went for logistics and I don't have my GMC anymore, which means I know effectively nothing that's going to reliably punch through this Stug, and that's going to allow the DAC player to create a lot of space. And this is something you just have to be mindful of when you're thinking about your various upgrades. What I could do in this situation, rather than wait for tier 4, is pop up a quick motor pool and build an AT gun. The other option I have here is going for air resupply operation, which is going to drop a M1 57mm anti-tank gun, which can help me deal with the Stug. It's also going to give me 40 fuel crate and then another 1919. I have a lot of people say to me, like, I don't understand this ability. Like, it's totally useless. Think of this as like you're trading munitions for manpower and fuel. You're trading munitions for manpower and fuel and various units that are going to be useful regardless of what stage of the game you're in. Whether it's, I mean, obviously mid-game it's better to use this if you're planning to, because the AT gun and the 1919 are going to have a longer viable window as units. But this is effective at pretty much all stages of the game. In my case specifically, I'm leaning on getting the whiz bang as soon as possible, honestly, because I kind of wanted to showcase it for this video. But the right strategic decision at this point is to go for the air resupply operation and do a weapon drop in my base, give myself an M1 to help me deal with the Stug, another machine gun to help me contain the Assault Grenadiers, and then the extra fuel to help me catapult into tier 4 would be absolutely perfect here. But I'm saving my CPs. Planting an M1 mine here on a very common traversal point, especially for 250s and other light vehicles. Using my Weasel here to engage the Assault Grenadier and try to push him off the VP so we can stop that bleed. I'm over here trying to help out Momo deal with these team weapons with the help of his Bishop. Looks like he's just crewed the M1 that I left for him in the base. Did manage to get caught out here by the Jaeger in one shot, which was really unfortunate. Uh-oh. Yeah, that was a late retreat. Hopefully this guy gets out. Thankfully, these guys have a pretty decent, what's it called? Hit, or not, I was going to say target size. They're harder to hit than some other units. And the vet one there definitely saved me. You can see I pulled an additional SSF onto the field because I'm still pretty far away from any vehicles. I've actually gone for the P47 anti-infantry loiter as well as the Sherman Whiz-Bang producible version that I'm going to get from Tier 4. We're going to be pushing our way back to the middle here, but just trying to help Momo contain the pushes here from the Stug and the Wirbelwind that we're having to deal with. SSF's engaging here in the center with my rifleman, pushing in with the machine gun as well. Did manage to pick up a kill on one of the retreating assault grenadiers with a mine that I had planted here. This is another very common traversal point. I thought maybe he hit the mine with the 250, so I actually used the captain's sprint to try to close the gap with the bazookas out on the SSFs. Another thing I want to remind you guys of is that I didn't actually do it this game, I don't think, but the improved bazookas, especially when you're planning to go for SSFs, if you have gone for Weapon Support Center in the early game and you also have a bazooka squad, this is a fantastic upgrade. Especially with SSFs because it also scales with the concealment ambush bonus that they get. So you can do some crazy burst damage with like an ambush shot from the bazookas in the improved bazookas category, much like you would see from like a Jägerschreck squad. Very, very useful. But we'll talk about the best part of these guys shortly. Panzerjäger on retreat here. I'm trying to intercept his retreat path. Get a quick volley of bazookas and a grenade snare on. But we did get pushed out here by the Stug. Otherwise, I probably would have tried to stay on top of that Wirbelwind. Machine gun and the captain moving into position to, again, you know, we need to prioritize VPs. You never want to be triple capped if you want to avoid it. If you're ever in a situation where you're working with coordinated teammates, you guys want to make sure that you're prioritizing and committing your units to getting a at least one VP to stop the VP bleed, because the tick rate is very quick in this game and you'll lose the game very quickly if you get triple capped. Just baiting the assault grens in here with the SSFs and the captain. Focusing on the bottom side. Now, I want to call out here, I'm being very deliberate at focusing on the bottom side because I don't want to play into his Stugs that I know are in the middle. I want to bait him into this area that's much more congested and difficult for him to maneuver with his Stugs. And that's why I'm committing most of my troops down to the south side rather than the middle at this point. Usually you don't want to let your opponent kind of split you apart from your teammate, but in this context it makes sense because I lack the appropriate... Oh, I actually did go for improved bazookas. Anyway, I actually lack the appropriate counters to deal with Wilson's Stugs here. And so what I'm doing to deal with that in the meantime is bait him into a position where it's more difficult for him to make good use of the Stugs based on the terrain, right? Because this area is a lot more congested, I can kind of like skirt around these corners, like hide from the Stug, go behind these rocks. It makes it a lot easier rather than this big open area where it's very easy for him to just drive up and blap me with the Stug cannon. Quick orbital round in there from the Stug. Good hit in there from the Stug, forces away my troops. Just going to retreat this because I don't want to get grenaded by the assault grenadiers. Continuously using my airburst barrage, excuse me, to help out Momo. Dealing with these team weapons. You can see we're getting some really good damage in here with the airburst barrage. Oh my god, look at that. Woo! They must have a medical bunker truck. Let's see. They gotta have something back there, right? There it is, medical half track. That'll do it. Yeah, see, this is kind of what's happening when I'm getting when I'm committing my troops to the middle where all his vehicles are going to be the strongest on the open ground. You can see I'm just getting chewed up.
Enemy in control of all victory points.
Now, I want to talk about demos, you guys. These things are terrifying. And the SSF demos are special because they can only be detected. You'll notice here, it's a hidden demolition charge. So it's not just any demolition charge, it's a hidden demolition charge, which means that it's only detectable by minesweepers. Standard demolition charges, if you get close enough to them with any unit, you can spot them and just kill them. But these are only detectable to sweepers. So what I want to do is find a good position that's going to be contested, congested, so forces his troops to be close together, or his vehicles, where it's going to deal the maximum possible damage. So I'm going to ask you guys, looking at where we are right now, where would be a good spot for me to put the hidden demolition charge, or a hidden demolition charge? I'll just pause really quick and give you a second to think about it. We've got, obviously, the central VP of here is very much of interest. We've got the north VP to consider over here. We're thinking about constantly infantry and vehicles coming from this sector. So if you haven't figured it out by now, you'll see shortly. Now, first thing I'm doing is I'm forcing him away. Now again, the Stugs, they're not having a great time traversing this area. It's giving me the space that I need to actually pick up the kill on the 250, sorry. Scaring the Stugs away with the rifleman snare. We do manage to pick up the 250 kill, which is great, but again, I need more tangible counters to the Stugs at the moment because they're pretty dangerous and I really just don't have the equipment to deal with them. Again, air resupply operation would have been really good for me, but because I went down this tree instead, I don't have access to it at this point. We're kind of feeling the VP pressure. You can see we're getting close to equalizing on the VPs. But I am putting my tier 4 up, so now I'm gonna start to have some counter options for the composition that they've got.
Do you have command points ready to spend?
We're ready for orders.
Coming down south here. Now I did lose one of my riflemen. Not ideal, but I've still got 3 line units, so I'm in good shape here with the double SSF and the single rifleman. Caught out a machine gun here, and again, like I said, raiding flares. What we're doing, we're spotting for the mortar, we're spotting for Momo's bishop.
We're down to 200
And I said to
points.
Momo, listen man, we got to commit to the south VP because it's the hardest place for him to use his Stugs, and we need to stop the bleed so I can buy time to get my tier 4 units. So that's what we're doing here. Now we did manage to force the machine gun away, Caption going to capture the point, and the SSFs are going to plant just the juiciest demo right here shortly. You can see he's kind of adjusting, not really sure what he's gonna do because of the Stugs here. Momo and I are much more comfortable now playing together. Now I'm deciding to go for the Hellcat first, so that I can help punch through these Stugs. Anti-tank barrage here, just really dealing some heavy damage to Momo's Crusader there to stop the push. We're collectively pushing in here from the middle. Use the raiding flares and some great smoke to create space in the middle. SSF's leading the charge with the bazookas. Now that we've captured the VP, we're just going to back away and deal with this flank. So we noticed that the Wehrmacht player was flanking down this side. Momo positioning his bishops to counter barrage here on the flank. I'm getting my SSFs into the hard point. Get some great hits from the bishops on his infantry squads. Managed to pick up a kill on the Stoss and one of the grenadiers. Now we are forced to pull back here, but that was actually a big win for us because we managed to kill the Wehrmacht player's strongest infantry unit in the Stoss-Truppen and one of his grenadiers as well.
Sherman Whizbang is deploying.
Now I actually decided to go for the Whizbang instead.
Ready to expose enemy
Honestly, I was a little afraid that this game was going to end. The Hellcat was the correct decision here, but the Whizbang I wanted to showcase in this game. This is a great unit, very slept on. Now notice something here. So we've got one VP, right? His Stug was engaging my captain here in the middle. Probably the obvious decision to make is I'll just retreat my captain back to my base and reinforce it with the rest of my squads, right? Wrong, because we can't be giving up this VP for nothing, right? If I retreat my captain, I have nothing here, only my mortar. And what I'm counting on is that he's going to rotate from his heavy position up here in the north down towards the VP And I need the vision from the captain to identify when he's going to step on my demo, and I can use that to potentially clear a high value unit, right? So I move my captain down south here, just take a defensive position, and I just want to keep vision on the demo, because as long as I can see if he's approaching over the demo, then I can properly defend this VP. Here's a quick thing. These buildings that get completely flattened, they provide all kinds of green cover inside of them. Look at this. See this? This is all green cover. So as long as you're in the ruins of the building, oftentimes it'll provide you the protection that you need against machine guns or some of these flak weapons. Unfortunately, because I right-clicked the machine gun, he actually dragged my squad out of the cover and then started dealing heavy damage to them, so I had to back away. The idea was there, though. Good decap from Momo. Oh, not looking good for that section, unfortunately. Rotating my machine gun back towards the center. Now I'm going to start investing in my Hellcats that I'm really going to need to create some space and start to apply pressure to these Stugs. Now I caught out the Stug, but unfortunately it was a little bit too late, and my Mark vehicle was on cooldown. I want to call out here, the demo does 400 damage, okay? With the Mark vehicle bonus, that's going to deal an extra 100 damage. So not quite enough to deal with the Stugs at full health. But in this case, if I had managed to spot the Stug driving over the demo, hit it with the Mark vehicle, and then trigger it, this would be dead. Now, I'm okay backing away my captain now because I know there's nothing I can do against the Stug. Gonna push in here with my other units. I'm going to find an opportunity to try to use the whiz-bang barrage. Getting a flare-up to give me maximum vision. Strong Zooks here from the SSF coming in handy. See, I'm dealing decent chip damage when I'm penetrating the Stug on these SSFs. Backing up with the whiz-bang barrage as well. Dealing really solid vehicle damage. You can see here, like, you know, for the rockets that we're getting direct hits on these vehicles, we're dealing really good chip damage. M18 Hellcat is finally going to allow me to deal some serious damage to these Stugs. Now I'm using the loiter up here in the north to help Momo. Momo kind of got caught out with one of his squads and was dealing with some infantry. I wanted to help apply some additional pressure, and this is one of the benefits of loiters and off-map abilities, is even, you know, keeping a perspective on the whole map and seeing what kind of thing your teammates are dealing with is going to allow you to support them with your off-maps, right? So in this case, I'm actually able to use the loiter. I think I'm actually going for the decrew. Yeah, going for the decrew here on the flak 30. Now, unfortunately, he actually has a bunch of flak weapons, so between the flak fearling and the whirlwind, my loiter's not doing much. You can see here, it already got shot down. It's okay, giving me some space here to take out the 250 again. Picked it up with the Hellcat and the help of the SSFs. Just gonna pull these guys back so I don't bleed too much on them. Gonna pull my Hellcat back to base for repairs. I was going to bring my whiz-bang over to set up for another barrage to help out Momo, but it looks like things have kind of stalemated here. We did manage to secure the top VP and stop the bleed. Wilson here actually using the butterfly bombs, butterfly mines, I should say, to protect this south VP. Using the 254 barrage on my mortar, I caught that out, so I'm just going to relocate. To get my SSFs back on the field here. At Vet 2, these guys get really scary with their bazookas because of the extra rate of fire, and the weapon accuracy makes their 1919 Johnsons. They become really strong anti-infantry units at Vet 2. And they're pretty solid at like any range. Not as good as Stas, but once they get to Vet 3, like they're, I don't know, they're probably pretty close to the same category. And with obviously access to the bazookas, the extra movement speed, these guys are super dangerous at Vet 3. Especially making use of the camo as well. So we spotted out some infantry there. We're not going to force the engagement. We're also going to wait for the Hellcat to come back up so we can properly support our unit push. Using the mortar here. Keeping my SSF here on hold fire with the bazookas, baiting potentially the Stug to come down here and engage my... I want to see if I can pick it up with my Zooks. But then, oh baby. Oh baby, we caught out the Assault Grenadier that had picked up the MG42 from one of the dead Stahlstruppen. And that's a big win for us. That's a big, big kill. I actually think this unit was also carrying a Panzerschreck from earlier. But yeah, I mean, you guys saw like the demo kills pretty much anything in its radius, which makes it really strong. And especially the fact that it's hidden as well. Being able to just completely delete units from the game is probably one of my favorite parts about the SSF Commandos. I actually wanted to go and scoop up the MG42 with my captain, but I stepped on a mine, so good job by Wilson recovering that MG42 on his tank buster squad.
We have a large amount of command points available.
Got my Hellcat in here to help protect my...
Tails reporting.
And again, I don't want to push in here. I want him to overextend with the Stug. Using my mortar to hit the machine gun here. I actually was using the attack ground to help me clear the mines. Using my ambush bonus on this Assault Grenadier here to keep them away from the VP. Meanwhile, we got some other things going on here. Just used a whiz-bang rocket barrage in this sector with Momo. You can see this player, Dunkirk, using breakthrough here to get the extra rate of fire on his tanks. Momo doing a great job keeping it back with the 6-pounder combined with his Canadian squad. Looks like he actually got hit by some white phosphorus. I pushed in a little bit here, got aggressive on the Stugs, pushed back here by the Martyr. I followed up with a long-range rocket barrage, which is one of the 2 veterancy options on the whiz-bang. So I want to talk about the whiz-bang really quickly here. With the whiz-bang, MSC can be a really excellent choice. And the main reason for that is you can get access to the 76mm conversion on the MSC, and it will apply to the whiz-bang on which you choose the other veterancy option. I did not choose it this game, but the other veterancy option is to jettison the rocket launcher on top. And this has some great synergy with some of the different aspects of the American tech tree. So what this could potentially look like is, in another world, if I'm playing this game again and I decide to commit to motor pool to build some AT guns and maybe a Chaffee to help me deal with the Stugs, it's going to take me forever to get to tier 4, right? Because I invested the fuel in motor pool, maybe I got a Chaffee or something, and I also went for logistics, right? So it's going to take me way too long to get to tier 4. If I'm playing MSC, especially if I'm playing MSC, I can go for the call-in version of the whiz-bang, skip tier 4 completely, and buy the 76mm Sherman upgrade from my mechanized support center. I don't have it this game, I have infantry support center, but just conceptually, right? And that means that when I get vet 1 on my whiz-bangs, at the time of my choosing, I can jettison the rocket launcher and convert this into a nice 76mm Sherman. Which is going to be more than enough for what I need to get to punch through these Stugs as well as the Martyr, right? So you have a lot of versatility with this battle group, especially in team games, I would argue. And I think the MSC route might be even better in the context of team games. And the other nice thing, guys, is that the whiz-bang is actually a little bit cheaper than the Sherman on the fuel side. So having this be able to start out, and you could, also being able to skip tier 4 together is really nice. But obviously in long games, you don't want to do that because you might need the Hellcat eventually. But being able to skip tier 4, get access to the 76mm Sherman, and get it at like a decent discount. I mean, the manpower cost is a little bit more for the whiz-bang, but the fuel is cheaper, right? And if you're not having to build tier 4 and you're using the call-in, or even if you are building it from the tier 4, starting with a Sherman that is a whiz-bang, getting a great rocket barrage off and then swapping to a 76mm Sherman, that's like great versatility and breadth of capabilities in one unit, right? That's great value, great return on investment for that unit. Now, I did not do it this game. I decided to go for long-range rocket barrage because I didn't expect my Sherman to have great impact because I didn't go for MSC. The main gun on the Sherman is going to have a difficult time getting through the Stugs, and so I decided to keep it as an artillery unit rather than a frontline Sherman. So just kind of wanted to explore that with you guys as a potential option. So we've got continued pressure on the South VP here. Again, this is the most advantageous area for me to play in, considering what Wilson has access to with the Martyr, the AT gun, and the Stugs. I am going to advance here into the center. You can see I'm using the smoke cover from my mortar to create a screen and allow me to decapture this point. I'm always staying mobile so that it's harder for the Stugs to hit me. You can see it wants to lob rounds over the smoke, which creates some good space for me. Hellcat's in here to back me up. I'm using the smoke screen. I want to call this out. I'm using the smoke screen. He does not know that my Hellcats are here, right? I know that he's got one Martyr. I haven't seen it up until this point, but I'm using the cover of the smoke and his distraction and focus on the SSFs to create space for my Hellcats to close the gap, identify the highest threat target, take it out, and then close also with my other SSF squad coming from the south with the bazookas out. Right? So here's what happens. We'll do it at half speed. We bust through the smoke with the Hellcats. Initial shot, I kind of mismicroed a little bit. Initial shot from this Hellcat goes onto the Martyr. You can see I changed targets from the Flak Veerling to the Martyr because the Martyr is the only threat in range to my Hellcats. So we start with the Martyr, right? Start with the Martyr, focus on the Martyr, keeping my distance. Kiting appropriately as possible. I actually lose the second shot on the Martyr. He drops out of range. Get another couple hits in from my Hellcats on the Stug. He uses smoke. I'm going to take a step forward. Fire through the smoke. Do manage to pick up the kill on the Stug, which is great. Wilson doing a good job here of chasing with the Panzerschreck, trying to get that last shot off. Ooh. Not quite. He's a little too slow. And then Momo coming in to back me up with the Crusaders. Honestly, I feel like Momo actually should have just committed here and gone all in on his remaining vehicles. Looks like he went for the 2-pounder. And we did manage to pick up the kill on the Panzerjäger anyways, which is really nice. So there you go. Anti-tank barrage coming in. Oh, loses one of those Crusaders. That's unfortunate. Hellcats get out unscathed. We do manage to trade out the Stug. We killed the Stug, and we also killed the Panzerjäger with the help from Momo. And we secured the middle sector. So all around, good trade up, good win for us. Getting another engineer here because I'm floating a fair bit of manpower, and I want extra repairs for my Hellcats. Just noticed the 254 mortar there. Oh, good scatter on it. Actually deals a lot of damage to my machine gun team.
Engineers on the field.
Use the airburst barrage to force the Grenadier squad off so I can recapture it with my other 2 units. Hellcats back at the front here.
Enemy movement near our victory point.
Infantry returning from base. Dealing damage to the highest threat and most fragile unit first. I'm going to finish the capture and then force the retreat there. I'm okay to give up that territory point. I brought the whiz... This was a little bit late, but brought the whiz-bang over to try and harass the squads that were capturing the VP here. Hellcats backing up my infantry push in the middle here. Always want to be screening with your Hellcats if you can. I use sprint on this rifleman squad to get around the machine gun. It's dealing with a lot of enemy armor here now. Just gonna grab the green cover here with my bazooka squad. Hellcats coming in once I've identified the Stug as a viable target. I'm okay to take those couple hits and back away. Have to retreat my mortar here from the assault grenadier. I'm almost pretty much locked down the top here with his bishops and crusader composition. And I'm going for a third Hellcat. Reason I'm going for a third Hellcat is I am anticipating a heavy tank from them. I know that the red player Dunkirk is gone for breakthrough, and so the Tiger is going to come out at some point. The Hellcat is going to make absolutely sure that I can apply all the pressure that I need to that Tiger when it comes out, potentially. And I'm also anticipating one potentially from Wilson. Because I know he's gone for tier 2.5. I kind of expected that he had gone for tier 3 by now, but you can see actually he hasn't done that. I actually I was planning a demo on this thing, and then I actually got hit by the Stug, and it blew up on my SSF squad, so that's something you have to be wary of. Just be careful when you're planting the demo, because you get interrupted by like some sort of explosive unit, then there's a possibility that you could lose your squad. There we go, pick up the kill on the MG34. Using the raiding flares to spot for artillery, by the way. Right, super useful. Excellent ability in team games especially. Forcing away the Jaeger.
A victory point is under attack. We must act.
Don't want to engage anything with the Hellcats while I have no infantry to screen. So I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to be patient and back up here. Engineer. I was going to move in here to protect, but I called on Momo for some help from his bishops. Momo fires those bishops onto the VP. Then I close the gap in here with my engineer. Get back into the VP to deny that capture. It's the power of coordinating with your teammates. Hellcats coming in to intercept this Stug. And apply some pressure. There we go, a couple good hits in here. Third Hellcat's a little bit late to the party, but he's ready to join. Oh, missed that last shot. You managed to lose that Hellcat. Really unfortunate we didn't get the killing blow on the Stug. That last Hellcat missed the final shot there. Going for an MG bunker to help me cover the bottom here because I was floating a ton of manpower and munitions.
Players ready to expose enemy positions.
Tigers on the field. We have to be wary of that now. Vet 3. Oh, Vet 3 SSF. Not looking so good. A lot happening here. Hellcat's coming in to protect. I actually tried to retreat the Vet 3 SSF, but I lost it to the 254 barrage. Unfortunate. Now, we're not in a terrible position here, but obviously we do have to be wary of the Tiger. The Tiger's now on the field. So I am going to be saving up for another Hellcat at this point. And maybe replenish my infantry losses if I get enough manpower back to rebuild my SSF. Because I have logistics and I've got the upgraded Zooks, I'm not too worried about getting them vetted up pretty quickly. But you just have to be a little bit careful if you're rebuilding infantry units in the late game, because they lose a lot of survivability when they're fresh and they have no veterancy. You just have to be extra careful with them. So, and you should be able to kind of claw your way back in. Managed to catch out the 251 here, the medical 251 with the Hellcats. Get the killing blow on it, which is really nice. Actually manages to hit one of my mines there. Use the whiz-bang barrage to create space here. Tiger covering center VP. Hellcat's coming in for a little love tap. Still drawing his fire with the Tiger. Rifleman gets almost blapped by the Tiger. Crusaders managed to pick up the kill on the Pioneer, which was really nice. I'm using the long-range barrage to try to hit the team weapons that I know are here, and I'm getting some great hits from the whiz-bang. So now I'm going to be peeking for opportunities with my Hellcats to see if I can get some killing blows. Look at all this artillery. It's beautiful. Managed to pick up the kill on the Martyr there. Didn't see the P4, unfortunately. I was trying to peek in and get the kill on the Tiger there, but he did have the P4 here to support and managed to pick up one of my Hellcats, unfortunately. Gonna rebuild that really quickly. Crusaders come in to support. We're kind of in stalemate position here in the middle. Vet 3 SSF capturing the south here. Hellcats coming in to support. Engaging at long range. Closing the gap. Sorry, we're getting a little bit of lag there. Okay, so he snared me. I know his P4 is in the smoke here. Trading the P4 out for the Hellcat is always a win for me. So I'm going to fire into the smoke. I managed to connect, okay? We're effectively... the reason I'm not afraid of this engagement is because I know the tank guns do about 120 HP, which is about 20% of the Hellcat's pool. I can see that my Hellcat has a little bit more than that. It's got about 25%, actually. And for that reason, I'm very content to sit in this position, take another shot from the P4, which he actually misses anyways, and get the killing blow there on the P4. You can see he almost got me, not quite. We do manage to back away there with the Hellcat. That's a good trade for me. Momo big push in here with smoke barrage. Oh my god, the anti-tank barrage too. Just an absolute mess. I said to Momo, I was like, man, did you get the 6-pounder upgrade on your Crusaders? And he was like, no. And I was like, dude, that's like, anytime you're planning for a big dive like this where you know you're gonna lose some of your tanks, get the gun upgrade. It's worth it. I promise it's worth it. The extra penetration, extra damage, better against vehicles overall. When you're planning to do a big dive with Crusaders, that's when you purchase the up gun, okay? Hanging around with 2-pounders is fine for the mid game and as you're getting to your critical mass, but once you hit that critical mass and you're like, all right, I'm ready to make a decisive play like this, then go for the 6-pounder upgrade, because he definitely would have picked off this Tiger if he had gone for the 6-pounders. Now, he's calling for help. I'm like, hey man, I can't help you. I've got one Hellcat, it's engine damage. I've got a second Hellcat coming from base. I don't know if I can pick him off, but what we do have here is whiz-bang long-range rocket barrage and raiding flares and a dream. So raiding flares going out. I asked Momo, hey, where's the Tiger, man? I didn't see it. Where was it last? He said it's in this area somewhere. So I drop raiding flares, identify the Tiger, drive straight in here with the Hellcat. I accidentally fire at the Stug, but thank God we managed to pick it up with the long-range rocket barrage placed right on top of the Tiger, get the killing blow on the Tiger, which was huge. And Momo, you can see here, he's pushing in with the Canadians and cleaning up the middle. I've got, you know, the Hellcat in repair here, pushing onto this final VP, this third VP to close out the game. And this is basically the end. So you can see Dunkirk and Wilson surrendered. So there you have it, guys. There's my general go. Now, I'd say this build generally applies to both 1v1, 2v2, and team games alike. We did end the game with a nice Vet 3 whiz-bang to boot. Managed to get a couple vehicle kills. We killed that Martyr earlier in the middle and the Tiger with the whiz-bang, so it turned out to be super high value. Your infantry scaling super well with the SSFs. Access to the improved bazookas also helps your SSF scale. You can use the demos to deal with the major infantry threats that you're going to be dealing with, like Stoßtruppen and stuff. Just planting them in choke points or on retreat paths. It's a great way to spend your munitions because you're not having to invest as much in bars. You guys will notice this game I did not go for bars. Generally, I'm not going for bars if I'm planning on building 2 riflemen or less. And I do plan to have like a late game infantry option, either in the case of like SSFs or Rangers would be another example, or even paratroopers. Oftentimes, I'm not going for bars on my riflemen because it's just too much of an investment in terms of manpower, fuel, and munitions for return on like 2 units, right? Generally, if you're going bars, you want at least 3 riflemen to help them scale. But in this case, I'm able to save that fuel, invest in the extra bazooka damage instead. I went for Infantry Support Center, but like I described earlier, I think Mechanized Support Center has a lot of options available to it as well. And, we got great value out of our composition, decent units. I'd say things that I could have improved on this game. Maybe rather than going for the whiz bang when I did, probably going for air resupply operation would have made for a much more stable mid game. Being able to support my my units with the M1AT gun would have been really nice. The extra fuel would have catapulted me into tier 4 a lot earlier. I also could have potentially used it for survival training, which I did end up getting later on. I can't remember exactly when I got it. I think it was around like 20 something minutes. After my tier 4, though, it was definitely after my tier 4. And again, helping the infantry scale into the late game. Like I mentioned, great late game abilities from here. Because I've kind of bypassed the most useful point of the game where I could use air resupply operation, and we're in the super late game, assault operation definitely a much better option based on how much munitions I'm floating. But there's also some great abilities in the Spec Ops Battlegroup in the anti-infantry loiter. This is still quite strong throughout the game. Obviously, you have to take into account how much anti-aircraft your opponent has. But this is pretty good. Mark vehicle is okay. The captain, honestly, like if you compare Mark vehicle from this battle group and Mark vehicle from the captain version is just better. Now it does have less penetration bonus compared to this Mark vehicle, but it has extra damage, which is really nice. Now, if you combine these two, it basically turns whatever vehicle you're targeting into paper. So you could probably stack the Captain Mark vehicle with this one and turn whatever vehicle it is into paper so that it's really easy to punch through. But generally speaking, this is my conventional path. If I'm going motor pool or heavy ISC investment and not planning on going for tier 4, Mechanized Support Center, if I'm going MSC, I might actually go for the call-in whiz-bang over the buildable one. And using the 76mm Shermans in addition to like a weapon support center and motor pool composition. But in this game, I did decide to go for the tier 4. I went for the constructible whiz-bang, which turned out to be a pretty decent choice in the end. I think it's fitting that the whiz-bang kind of got the killing blow on what was left of the Axis army there in the Tiger. Great support. I didn't give Momo a ton of credit this game, but he did a great job with his Crusaders. Did an excellent push with the what the hell is this ability called? Smoke Operation and the Mass Crusaders. Made really good use of his Recce artillery and the what is this called? Offensive resupply ability. Made good use of Canadians. He's got a Vet-3 AT gun that did very well also. So overall, really great game. Had a lot of fun. I really love this map. I think this is one of the really good 2v2 maps, Santuario. The buildings in the middle, they make for the urban feeling, but aren't as oppressive because they're not all garrisonable, which is really nice. So there's my guide, guys, on the Spec Ops Battlegroup. I'd say the key takeaways, raiding flares, cannot understate the value of this. Weasel in the early game, you want to be using this as your base of fire support. Frontline heals is very, very useful in 1v1 and 2v2 context. Even team games, honestly, frontline medical early on is just super valuable. The ability to drop weapons for yourself and your teammates. Then you're getting into your SSFs as early as possible. And then you can decide, do you want to go down the infantry loiter path, the Mark vehicle path, or do you want to go for maybe air resupply operation to help catapult you into that tier 4 like I did. I didn't use this, but I catapulted into tier 4 from Weapon Support Center. And this is a great tool to do that. Assault operation is okay, But I think like to help you get through your mid game, air resupply operation gives you everything that you need on top of what you already have if you go for the barracks and weapon support center combo. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm getting to the hour 10 mark. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you learned some things. Feel free to leave some comments down below on what battle groups you would also like to see next. I'm cooking something for every battle group that was in the A or S tier for each faction. But you know, it's taking me some time, obviously, to play the games and then do this process for them. So anyway, that's it. Thanks, nerds. We'll see ya.